And it is a great pleasure to welcome to our show today, man, who I've wanted to talk to for a while. We finally were able to do that today. He's known in show business for many years as a great singer. He's got a wonderful story. We'll get into that perhaps for a few minutes, but he's made his living really doing Christian music, but kind of a unique style, Christian big band. So we'll find out about that. And he's worked with just about everybody in show business and lives just right up the road from us here in Sarasota. Dave Boyer joined us by telephone today. And Dave, really pleasure to talk to you. How are you?
I'm doing great, Doug. Great talking to you too. Yeah, in the same state. How about it?
That's great. Yeah, we didn't both grow up here, but we wound up down here somehow.
Yeah, we're both Yankees, right? Long Island and Pennsylvania.
That's
How
it.
about it?
I was just kind of keeping up with you over the years from time to time as we talked before we went on. My mom was involved with the Christian Women's Club back in Long Island where we grew up, and she would book the speakers, and I remember you were one of them, and she brought home your album, and you were quite a hit that day. But you've done a lot of that over the years, those
Well,
clubs.
it's been a joy for me, Doug. It really has. It's amazing. It keeps going on. It amazes me sometimes because, I started my career in show business at 19 down at Skinny DeMatto's 500 Club in Atlantic City. And then for 13 years, played the clubs, but then got my life pretty messed up with substance abuse.
Right.
And my family had to leave me for a while. But, well, it's a message of grace. I'm a pastor's son, and I remembered the forgiveness of the cross and turned back to the Lord Jesus and changed my life, and he did it. And restored my marriage, and it's been a great, great walk over these years, and released 24 albums over the years for the Lord's glory, and singing his praises with the big band.
That's what makes it unique, because gospel music's fine, a lot of it, wonderful music. But I like the two. I've done a big band jazz show on radio for years, so I like that kind of music anyway. And it's kind of unique that you continue that. Great charts, with that type of music.
It's been a joy, and to work with great guys over the years, and that like Ralph Carmichael, who's retired now, and
right.
3 great albums with Ralph, and then Ron Huff, who's gone to be with the Lord, and Kurt Kaiser over the years, Bob Krogstad, some great arrangers. But my first arranger is a gentleman of the Jewish faith, and I did my first 4 albums, Christian albums, in Capitol Records in New York at the old 45th Street studio there with Jonathan Tunick. And we still keep a strong relationship going, so it's been a really great time.
Yeah, wonderful music. We'll get to that, back to that in a minute. I did want to talk to you a little bit about what you said earlier. I understand the interviews you've done. Like you said, you started at the Skinny DeMatto's Club 500 in Atlantic City. My dad was stationed there during his time in the war in the 40s. He was there when Dean and Jerry just kind of hit right then, and he said that was quite a place, that Club 500.
That's right, he did, and I had a different name then, Joey Stevens.
Joey Stevens,
when I went
right.
down there, I was singing at a local club in my hometown in York, Pennsylvania, and that club owner had some friends he knew, and they came down and heard me, and they were very close to Mr. D'Amato, and went down there on a Saturday night and sang for him, and that was what started a career.
Yeah,
It
amazing.
was very thrilling, and in 1953, I opened for Martin Lewis, and then I was with them when the last 2 weeks together they did at the 500 Club.
Now, they would go back there, right? They didn't just start there. They would go back every year or two?
No, they went back, and then Jerry came back in 1957 as a single, and that show, and then, in fact, that week is when I got drafted in the United States Army. I got my draft papers. But and of course through that club everybody came. Of course, and one of my great exciting times with me was meet Sinatra when he was there and everything, and hear him and be mentored to a degree by his talent. And so it was a pretty wonderful time.
I know he would
Very
go back
wonderful.
there because he had he would feel loyalty a bit to Skinny, because Skinny kind of gave him a break when he was having trouble, right? Frank was having trouble.
Exactly right, and Skinny gave him a chance to sing, and that's when. It's before I came down there, but the guys in the band were telling me that's when he did the first Nelson Riddle stuff. And Doug, it was with a small group. It was with a rhythm section and strings,
right,
and a couple of woodwind players. Foggy Day and all those tunes came out of that.
He really changed his style because pop music at that time was changing, and he didn't fit in, right? Didn't Mitch Miller just basically tell him he had to record this junky stuff at the time?
Yeah,
He didn't like that.
Can you picture him singing on top of Old Smoky? It's like it sounds like when Ralph Carmichael had talk about songs. Ralph's such a great talent, and my Lord, I mean, he's written for Nat Cole, Jack Jones, and everything, and he's such a great friend, and he's such a great guy musically. And we talk about a given gospel songs. He says, I said, can we swing this? He says, Dave, we can swing anything, but I don't think you could swing on top of Old Smoky.
No, that'd be tough. Although Frank did the recording of Old MacDonald. I've heard that.
Old MacDonald, I know, yeah.
That came out okay, but...
Yeah, his library, between he and Tony Bennett and even Johnny Mathis, and years of these great... And a lot of this stuff that was never big as far as national audience, but such great material, just great material.
Well, one thing about Frank, and and his friends have said the same thing. He could be great 1 minute, and the next minute you think he's going to kill you. So he was a difficult guy to work with.
Well, he was. I never saw that side of him, so I was fortunate.
Yeah.
But the best of them all was the one you mentioned. His daughter was Dean. For me. He was the kindest, nicest guy to work with. As a celebrity, and what a lot of people thought, when they broke up, it would be all Jerry Lewis. Let me tell you, Dean put together one of the greatest nightclub shows I've ever seen in my life.
I've become friends with her over the years. Just she came in our studio a few times, and we've done interviews. The last 10 or 15 years. And you're right.
Wow.
There's nobody that's ever said a word about Dean that he was mean or nasty. I mean, just the nicest guy. I never met him, obviously.
Yeah,
but,
and he was a hard worker. I mean, I remember in rehearsal when some of the players were late, and he looked at me and he said, "Joey, downbeat's at 2:00. What's happening?" So he wasn't anything lazy. I tell you, he wasn't always on the golf course. He knew every little thing about what he was doing.
That TV show, which he did, the variety show, Dean would say he would. He would get tapes during the week and kind of, he'd learn the show. He wouldn't have to necessarily be there, but he could come in on a day and just run through the songs once or twice, and he'd do the show. He had that type of ability.
Yes, he did. He was, and I loved his style. I really did. So it was a blessing to be around those guys. And then in the new life with the Lord, to meet such wonderful friends. In fact, we're having a real nice thing in the last couple of years with the Legends concerts that we're doing with guys that had, a lot of visibility and hit records in the Christian field in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, like Leon Patillo and David Meese and Scott Wesley Brown, and we all get together and do a big show. So we're doing that in Staten Island coming up in September.
Oh, great. I was just looking at your schedule there. So you travel not necessarily just in the state, but you're all over the country doing shows.
Yeah. And up there, I mean, what's happening, Doug, is all over the country, I've got different big bands I work with that most of them are believers, and they blow the walls down. I mean, the Tulsa Praise Orchestra, I've done over 250 dates with them, and my great friend John Fogg in Pittsburgh, he has a great band called Victory Jazz Band, and I'm trying to think of all the right names of different ones. And then the one in New York, that church guy, Tim Mercado, is the pastor now, but he's a great piano player and singer. And he brings all 802 Union guys. We put a 17-piece band up in the church.
Wow.
And it's a blast.
Yeah, just like you said, you can swing anything, and you put a big band chart to the music, and you're getting a message across, too. Obviously, that's part of it, but, you want to be entertaining.
Right, sure.
So it works.
It does, yeah. It was a little strange when I first did it in some of the less openly conservative churches. There was the shock factor. But my music's, right now my music's mild compared to all this, the new stuff. So.
Oh, sure. Well, I guess "Come On Home." That's one of your first that really took off.
That's right.
From the big band style.
Yeah, and that was Ralph. That was Ralph Carmichael, and he wrote that song.
Oh, he wrote it. Okay, I didn't know he wrote it.
Yeah, and he wrote it for me, because of the Prodigal Son setting, and I just never forget. We did that whole album at at the old Capitol Records and right there in Hollywood. And man, we on the first date we had 42 players in there.
Wow.
And we had most of the guys like Johnny Aldino and lead trumpet from the Tonight Show band, and it was a great orchestra. I mean, I was just thrilled hearing those guys play. I tell you. You know, and Ralph is so good. So it's been an exciting time for me.
DaveBoyerMinistries.com. I want to give out your website now. People get more information about your latest CDs and your concert schedule and your biography. You just mentioned it briefly. Won't go into it again, but I mean, quite a story you had, and they made a movie about it, right? Back in the early '70s, the Billy Graham people,
right.
Didn't they make a movie about you?
So Long, Joey, yeah. And well, it's a wonderful thing. My wife and I just celebrated 59 years.
Oh, congratulations! Yeah.
Last week, yeah, thanks. And our granddaughter got her master's degree this year, and our precious daughter Junie doing well. So I'm a blessed man, Doug. I'm so very thankful that I'm honored to be able to do this ministry for the glory of God.
And when you think of it, you know, obviously what you went through, you prefer probably never having to, you know, go through that. But out of it came, like you said, a whole new life for yourself, and
right.
It's inspiring to hear stories of people coming back. A lot of times you don't hear that good part at the end.
Yeah. Well, once again, it's a message of grace that I just try to deliver through the music, and you know, I just look at it as a journey. God had a plan for me, and all the days, I'd never be judgmental towards show business and entertainment. I love it. That's why I still do a lot of pop. I mean, I love that and everything. And they were good days. I met some great people. The guys are my still great friends over the years. Many of them gone now, but I'm thankful for all that it's coming along in my life.
Did you ever work Vegas when you were?
No, but I went back as a believer a lot.
Yeah.
And believe me, yeah, I've had some great times of ministry out there. Really have. And one of my thrilling times was through the Billy Graham Crusade in 1980 there.
Oh, great! Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, my dad, my pastor father, I'm the youngest of 6 children in York, Pennsylvania, and all my family were singers. My mother was a great singer and pianist. But Billy Graham, if you read his book, Just As I Am, had his first crusade at my dad's church in 1941.
Wow, I didn't know that. Oh.
And I was a little guy, and here I was years later to be able to be on the program, give my testimony, and then sing Calvary Covers It All at his request.
I tell you, I mean, he had a wonderful life and all that. I miss those crusades. He would come to New York when I was a kid a couple of times, and we went. And I know his son is doing great work, nothing taken away from him, but you just miss those kind of crusades that that organization had. You know, Cliff Barrows and George Beverly Shea. My mother and father were always involved with that, so those were great times.
Where were you there in Garden City?
Well, yeah, we grew up in a town near there, Floral Park, but we went to his crusade at Madison Square Garden. I remember that as a kid.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, did you know Chuck Rigby of Youth for Christ out there? I used to come out there, and David.
I think my sister might have gone to that. She was more involved with that at that time. She was 5 years older than me, so I think she did those, and that name sounds familiar. I'll have to ask her, but yes, she was involved with that.
Yeah, I did a lot of Youth for Christ out there for 2 weeks at a time.
Right.
So, yeah.
She was involved with that, but those were a great time. And again, just kind of listening to you, you know, some of the videos I've seen on YouTube of you singing, the voice sounds as good as ever. You keep that in shape, don't you?
Yeah, I thank God that my mother was. She had perfect pitch, and the first thing she did is send us to coaches. I had my first lessons as a boy soprano. I've had great coaches over the years because I could never do even though I'm a stylist, you know. But I was taught to sing correctly so that I can keep going, and then getting rid of some of the smoke and the booze and swimming. Yeah, I can still sing.
That's the only thing that bothered me. Even watching the greats as a kid, you know, like Sammy Davis, towards Dean and Frank, the smoking. He always said that's going to hurt their voice.
It's going to get to you.
It's going to get to you.
You got to make a choice there. That's for sure.
But Tony Bennett, he's still going strong. I mean, he's 91.
Sure.
God bless him. You know.
Oh yeah, I love Tony Bennett. I love him. In fact, I have an arrangement that I do. The Good Life.
Great song.
With that same feeling, you know, and of his instrumentation. But I love Tony Bennett. Yeah, great talent. Great singer.
Just down in our area about 6 months ago did a show, and still does that a cappella number in there. Well, I didn't see that one, but a friend of mine went and still sing that booming voice at 91, I guess he is. So it's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's going on 92.
Yeah.
And Ralph Carmichael just got off the road last year at 90.
Did he really? Wow, 90.
Yeah,
wow.
he was down your way. I've been down your way at Fort Myers with the big band, right there at Dan Betzer's at the First Assembly. Yeah, First Assembly
God. We got to get you in our area here in Sarasota, Dave. Get you down here some of the areas. It'd be great to see in person. But I'm just looking at your schedule now. You're heading up to in September as we record today, Staten Island for a few shows, right?
Yeah, we do. And then out to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Your former hometown area, right? That's where you grew up?
That's exactly right. We'll be going out to Tulsa. There's other things in the work, and Ocean City. So I just try to keep pace with everything. But I don't go every night like I used to. No more, Doug. I love to be.
You could have some downtime to enjoy.
Oh yeah, I love my family, and I love living at the Villages, and I love to swim and be around and be out and barbecue like everybody else.
The Villages is quite a place. Like I said, when I went over there a couple of years ago, that's quite a place to live. I may want to wind up there myself sometime.
Come on up. We'd love to have you. I've been here.
Not quite ready yet, but years. I mean sometime.
Okay. But I love Sarasota because I come down there to Armand Circle.
Oh sure. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to do Christian. A great seniors event down in Bradenton. That's close to you, too.
That's right. Yeah, it's the next town over. Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah. But it's all been a blessed walk for me, man.
That's great.
You sound like you're having a great time, too, Doug.
Yeah, I keep involved, do the broadcasting, and do some writing and different things. So it's more of a challenge nowadays, the broadcasting business, but try and keep it going.
That's great. That's great.
And podcasting, so that's the way it goes. Before we wrap up, I did want to add the 500 Club. When did that end? I know it kind of had a fire, right? And then it went out of business?
Yeah, it's in 1970. In fact, you know what I did? I did a shoot. Christian Pat Robertson sent his guys up to there, and they had me do a shoot right there where it had burnt down. I think it was 1977.
77.
Like
okay. That. Yeah.
And because on the front, this is 6 years to the day that I came to faith, Skinny D'Amato invited me back. And they released my book, So Long Joey, written for me by my Jewish friend who was a nightclub editor at Atlantic City Press, Sonny Schwartz, who passed on.
Right.
So Skinny, with his arm on me, had me write my old name in the cement next to Sinatra's, where all these different names. Martin Lewis were there, and I put Joey Stevens, and Skinny said, put a line through it. And I put my real name, Dave Boyer, then I put John 3:16, my favorite Bible verse. Then went to the Supper Club where I used to stand with all those guys the last time with the Rat Pack in 1963. But I stood there and, by his request, gave a gospel concert for an hour in the 500.
Wow, that's great.
And I never forget, Skinny closed all the bars and they served Coke and cookies.
Yeah,
at the 500 Club.
That's great.
And all my buddies and friends were there. It was a great afternoon. Yeah. So.
He was a character, Skinny, huh?
Yeah, he knew how to run a club. I say that, and he had all those people in there over the years. Yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk to Jerry before he passed away? Had you kept in touch with him at all?
No, I didn't. Yeah. No, he was here, and I was out of town. He was here and played that Sharon.
He played that theater long before he died. You're right. Yeah.
Not before. You're right. He was in a wheelchair. The paper said.
Right. Yeah. You couldn't walk.
But
too
I didn't
long,
get the chance. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered if you had been able to keep in touch with him. He was a character in himself. Great talent, but he was something. Let's say that.
Oh yeah, it was. Their nightclub act was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I mean,
yeah, what was that like? I've seen some clips on YouTube of them. I think at the Copacabana. It looked completely nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was one bit where where Jerry would be. He'd come in the back of the room as college kid on his first date night on prom night while the crooner was up there. And then they'd sit at the table right next to Dean. And Jerry, while Dean was singing a pretty quiet ballad, Jerry'd be mouthing off and everything. And it was hilarious. And we did the Today Show after the last 2 weeks they were there. It's the last 2 weeks they were together. But the first night before the club show opened, they were there for the National Governors Convention. They did a show. Then they came to the club, and we did the Today Show right at early in the morning. All of us, I'll never forget that.
Wow!
And they weren't talking. They didn't share dressing rooms. They had different dressing rooms. And Dean was singing "Embraceable You," and Jerry got up and took the camera and put the camera on the monkey. They used to. That did not go over well with Dean.
Could you tell during those 2 weeks that there was tension? Could you feel it between them? Or?
Well, all I can say is when we set up out in the front lounge for breakfast for about 40 people in the cast, and I sat next to Dean, and Jerry was across the way, but they didn't talk.
Yeah.
On stage, you never know. But they went their separate ways after,
Yeah.
the other time. But they were great on stage. You never know it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Dean put up with that. He said, I think even Jerry said, Dean probably should have broken it up 5 years earlier, but he hung in there because they were doing so well, But
oh yeah, I mean they were the top thing going, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
the movies and the live shows and the records.
Oh
and all
yeah,
that, yeah, great stuff. Yeah,
that's another life story, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, we want people to check out, again, DaveBoyerMinistries.com, the website. And, Dave, real pleasure having a chance to talk with him. Glad we could do it today. And please, we'll keep in touch.
Let's keep in touch.
And do something, hopefully, maybe after the first of the year, or after your schedule, picks up the new, 2019, you'll come our way. But we'll definitely do something early 2019 if you're interested.
I would love to. That I would love to, and love to see you. And thank God for the memory of the Christian Women Club with your folks.
I'll tell my mom next time I see her on Friday that we spoke.
Oh,
so she'll be happy
give
to
her
hear
my
that.
blessing.
She's 97, so she's still with us.
You know what? I send me your address and hers. I'd love to get my treasury hymns to her.
Oh, great.
20
okay.
hymns. 20 hymns all recorded there.
Oh,
with
appreciate that.
Jonathan.
Yeah, I will do that. Great. Dave
Okay.
Boyer, thanks for doing it. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Doug.